Hello and welcome, everyone. If this is your first time with us, welcome. We're excited you're all here today for another episode of Cooking Connected. My name is Jordan. Joining me is my coworker, Sajwa. Hi, Sajwa.
Hi, everybody.
Both Sajwa and I are program coordinators with the Cooking Matters Minnesota Extension Program with the University of Minnesota Extension. Normally, a Cooking Matters class is a 6-week nutrition-based cooking class that meets once a week for 2 hours. Classes feature a chef and a nutrition educator that work together to teach our participants how to make a healthy, delicious, and affordable meal together. So following that same format, today we are going to be making a mango salsa with homemade tortilla chips. Sajwa will be our chef, and I will be our nutrition educator. This week, as always, we're looking to connect with our community and learn some important nutrition topics, talk about ways we can decrease our grocery budget, and of course, make a healthy, delicious, and affordable meal together. So just like every week, we do have another survey for you guys to take. We love hearing from you guys, so please take our survey. We really do appreciate that feedback. For this survey, you will need a program code, which is right here. This week's program code is E097391. So we will be posting the link to the survey in the description box below, along with the program code as well. So see the description box after this video to take our survey. We thank you so much for that feedback. It really does help us to make our videos better and continue this work in our community. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our chef, Sajwa.
All right. Thank you, Jordan. So the results from last week's Facebook poll, the winner was the mango salsa with the homemade tortilla chips. I really like this recipe because you can do a lot with it. You can change it up. This recipe is a mango salsa, but I've done it before with peaches. You could add pineapples, a lot of different things, and really make it into your own and put your own twist on it. So what's your favorite part about this one, Jordan?
It's kind of hard not to love this recipe. We always make it for our last class with Cooking Matters. It's kind of a fun little recipe that we make. I really like that you can make it any time of year. So in the summertime, when the mangoes are on sale, you can go grab some mangoes, or you can actually just grab canned mangoes when it's winter time and you don't have access to those. So really awesome recipe.
All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and get started with this. We're gonna start out with our salsa, then we're gonna move on to our tortilla chips. But first and foremost, before we do any cooking in the kitchen, we always wanna remember to wash our hands. So making sure you're getting in between your fingers, underneath those nails, around your wrists, and that you're washing for 20 seconds. So you can always sing the ABC song, Happy Birthday, something like that, to help you keep with that time. Then the second thing that we want to work on is making sure that we sanitize our space. I've already cleaned and sanitized my cooking space today, so I know that all of these surfaces are safe for my food, and that's a really important step when you're working in the kitchen. And then finally, I want to talk about our mise en place. These are the top 3 things we cover in every video, you guys. So with our mise en place, you just want to make sure you have your mess in place. By that, I have my knife and cutting board ready. I've got all of my produce and it's been rinsed already, so I can just move straight through the recipe. I've got my measuring utensils out, seasonings, and bowls. So let's go ahead and get started. I know that the recipe is going to be in the description box, so follow along if you like. Mm-hmm. Now, the first thing that the instructions say is to go ahead and rinse your mangoes, cucumber, all of the different produce that you're going to be using. I went ahead and did that already. Next, it says we want to peel the mangoes and cut the flesh. Now, I've actually found a really cool way to cut mangoes. One of my friends showed me this awesome trick, so we're going to use that today, and I'm going to share it with you guys. But before we get to cutting, I do want to review our knife handling skills. Today's recipe is very knife heavy, so we're mostly going to be doing a lot of cutting, and you want to make sure you're being safe when you're using a knife in the kitchen. So as you can see here, I am pinching my knife by the blade, wrapping my fingers around the handle there, and that gives me a lot of control over the knife as I'm doing my cutting and working. And then with my other hand, I'm practicing using my claw, and I'm going to be using that to grip whatever I'm using, and then I can cut like so. So let me show you the way that I cut mangoes. So I just cut off the sides like so. In a mango, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but in a mango there is a really large seed right in the middle. And, you know, we don't want to put that seed in there. It's pretty big. So we're going to just cut all the flesh off of that. And sometimes I like to just eat these little bits on there. It's like a little treat. So I'm going to save that for later. So once you have the flesh cut off like that on all the sides, be careful with your hands, of course. You're going to want to just gently cut down the flesh of the mango. You could also do this on the cutting board. We're not cutting all the way through the skin though. We're just cutting enough so it kind of separates the flesh there. Let me make sure you guys can see that in my chef's view. So not cutting all the way through the skin, just enough to kind of separate the flesh. Then we're going to go back down the opposite way, like so. And when you do that, you get all of these perfect little cubes like that. And then if you want, you can just slice through and you get perfect mango cubes. So that's one way to cut the mango. Now, if you wanted to follow the instructions on this recipe, you could go ahead and peel that, maybe using something like a potato peeler, and then just cut off the flesh and dice it like usual. So that's how I cut out my mangoes. And I am going to put that in my bowl over here. This is going to be my salsa bowl. I don't know if you guys can see that. When I'm making this recipe, I like to go ahead and use one of my containers that already has a lid so I can be sure to save that. I find that with this recipe, you get the best results the next day after the salsa has had some time to marinate, and those flavors really just combine and it just becomes such a yummy treat.
Absolutely. Yep. The longer you let this salsa sit, it does taste better. You can serve it right away, but just giving it some time to let all those flavors come together really kind of sets off your salsa. So
Yeah.
So Sajwa, when you're picking mangoes, what do you look for in a ripe mango?
Oh yeah, I usually pick mangoes by touch. So I want them to be a little soft, but not too soft. Like definitely not mushy. But you want to have a little bit of give there when you squeeze the mango. I'll show you actually because I do have two mangoes here.
Sure.
And I can show you what that looks like.
Do you ever pick
You know,
up
I have.
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
Do you ever
That's
pick
what
mangoes
teaching looks.
by color? Or I know sometimes when you're in the store, the mangoes can be really green like that, or I've seen some that are kind of yellowish. Do you ever pick them by color, or is it primarily by touch?
I mostly do it by touch because I, for the life of me, can never remember which color means ripe. But I do know that some mangoes, like when they've been sitting in the sun, they'll get like a nice red spot on them. You know, it can be anywhere on the mango, and that can be an indicator of that. Also, if you look at the stem, this has been washed or it has been rinsed, so it's a little wet still. But if you look at the stem in the grocery store, sometimes you can see a little bit of like, I don't know what you would want to call it, like mango juice kind of coming out a little bit from the top, just a little bit though. And if you want, you could also smell the top of here, and you could smell the ripeness, and that really helps me make sure that I'm getting the best mango for my recipe.
Absolutely.
Do you have any tips to share as far as picking mangoes?
You know, every time I'm picking out mangoes, I always look for kind of a yellow pink looking one. Every time I pick up the green ones, I can never find one that's really ripe. But the best part about this recipe is if you do end up getting a mango that's maybe not so ripe, you can mix it with the canned option and that will kind of sweeten it up, or you can mix it with you know, hopefully you have a ripe mango in the bunch and it just kind of melts together.
So I'm just going to cut the one mango for right now, just so we can show. I'm going to cut this recipe in half, but do go ahead and make the full recipe. In my situation, it's just my husband and I, so we don't want to be overwhelmed with salsa. We can only handle so much. So now I am moving on to my cucumber. And I think this adds a really nice, oh, actually my bowl is blocking the camera there, you guys. Sorry about that, you missed that. I just chopped off the sides of this cucumber. And then I'm gonna cut this bad boy in half. creating a flat surface for me to cut, like so. So it's not rolling around. We have a nice sturdy surface. And I'm gonna go down and do some slices, watching my claw, watching my hands, making sure I'm practicing good knife handling skills, and watching my grip here.
Absolutely.
And there we go. And then I like to just put those back in place, and then I go ahead and cut through like so. Get a nice dice on this cucumber.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever take the seeds out of your cucumber? You're making this.
No, I go ahead and eat them.
Eat the whole thing.
Yeah, I eat the seeds in my cucumber. I don't cut them out. I guess that if that's something that, you know, bothered you, you definitely could do. I have actually never thought about doing that. It's just always been jump right in when it comes to cucumbers for me. Do you cut your seeds out, Jordan?
Every once in a while, I will take the seeds out if I'm making a recipe that doesn't need a lot of moisture in it. So taking that middle part out, that's a little on the mushy side, will kind of cut the moisture down. But we're making a salsa today, so it's okay to have that moisture.
Yeah, and I find that moisture will add to it. Like we said, the next day, after the salsa has sat overnight, and then there's a little moisture in there, and then it's just kind of like that flavor pot where all the different vegetables and produce come together, and it makes a really tasty like juice for your salsa.
Sure.
So I got my cucumber in there, and then it calls for 1 medium jalapeno pepper. Now, you guys, this is up to your discretion and like how much spice you're able to handle. Like I said, I am going to cut this recipe in half, although I did put the entire cucumber in there, but I really enjoy cucumber. So I'm going to cut this recipe in half. So I'm just going to use half of my jalapeno right now. So I just cut that. And as you'll notice when I cut the jalapeno, inside there are, make sure you guys can see that, seeds and then the veins in there. Now that's where the spice is actually going to come from with like a pepper. So if you're not able to handle that, you can remove the seeds and just cut out the veins like so. Take that out and then take out the seeds and maybe do a little rinse before you cut it up and put it in your salsa. I do enjoy that spice quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and keep my seeds and the veins in there. Yeah. If you look at this recipe, you'll also notice that it says you can add a pinch of cayenne pepper. Well, because I'm going to keep my veins and my seeds, I am going to opt out of the cayenne pepper today. So just keep that in mind when you're using something like a pepper. If you are going to be using the seeds and the veins, maybe you might want to watch it a little bit when it comes to the cayenne pepper later. No. So I just went ahead and cut my pepper in half to create a flat surface again. I've got my claw and I'm just going to slice through this bad boy. And then we're going to go back through it again and dice it. What's that, Jordan?
So I just wanted to mention, when you are cutting jalapenos, some people, it really bothers some people when they're cutting their jalapenos to get that oil on their skin. So sometimes you may want to consider wearing gloves when you're cutting a lot of jalapenos. I've seen using old produce bags if you don't have gloves at home to hold on to the jalapeno when you're cutting it. But just something to consider, make sure you're washing your hands really well after you cut a jalapeno. If you accidentally rub your eyes or your nose after you cut a jalapeno, it will hurt.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's a really great safety tip there. That jalapenos and any peppers you're working with, please remember not to touch your face or body without washing your hands on that one.
Absolutely.
So I finished cutting up my half of the jalapeno. I've got that in there. We got a lot of colors going in here. We've got the yellows, the greens. Next, I'm going to go ahead and work with some cilantro. It does call for a 1/4 cup. I mean, that's optional. It's according to what you like and what your taste buds can handle. I do enjoy cilantro. So I normally, if I was going to do the full recipe, I would actually maybe do like half a bunch. So this is about 1/4 of a bunch. And I have the other 1/4 in my fridge over there. So I'm just I've already rinsed this. I like to use the stem of my cilantro. That doesn't bother me. I find that once we get to mincing it, it gets cut up so small that you can't even tell it's a stem. And it's not like a really hard or bulky stem like something you would find in a kale or a collard green. So it's comfortable to eat. So I just roll my cilantro kind of in a little tucked up like so. And then I'm gonna, again, practice my knife skills. I'm watching my fingers as I go, moving them back, and I'm just gonna slice down.
Yeah. And then you said this was an optional ingredient, correct,
It
Sajid?
is. Yes. So the cilantro is optional. You could also use something in here like green onions. I know oftentimes when we do this one in the Cooking Matters class, we will include green onions. I just don't really care for the green onions in this recipe myself, so I decided to leave that one out. But again, recipes are just a framework, you guys. You could customize this. You could use the canned mango option, or maybe you're not a mango fan. Pineapple, peaches, all of those things work really great with this recipe, and I've done them all before. So right now I'm just working through a little mince. As you can see, I'm holding my knife right here by the bottom, and then I'm kind of rocking it using the top to kind of balance. And I'm going all the way down and then back. And then as my pile disperses, I just like to scoop her back up into a nice neat pile and go through a couple more times. Again, I like to do a nice mince with my cilantro because that does cut up those stems
And the more
and
you
release
mince
a lot of that nice flavor. What's that, Jordan?
the more you mince it, like Sajid was just saying, the more you're going to taste it. So if you really want a lot more of that cilantro flavor in there, cutting it up small like that, it's the same thing like with garlic. If you cut it up really small, you're going to taste it a lot more in your recipe.
Exactly. And I just want to note that when I am scraping my, whatever I'm cutting back up together, sometimes you'll see me doing that in one of these demonstrations, I am using the back of my knife. So not my blade, but I'm using the back of my knife to kind of scrape that together and form that pile. Or if I'm scooping and putting it in a bowl, it's the back of the knife I use just so we can keep our knives sharp. They say that a sharp knife is a safe knife, you guys. So when your knives are sharp and they're able to adequately do their job, you don't have to put so much effort into cutting. And it does make it a safer experience, despite what you would imagine. So I've got my cilantro nice and cut up, a couple bigger pieces in there, but that doesn't bother me. I might cut them up a little bit more. There we go. So you see how fine that is? And you can't even tell that I had stems in there. You can't even see that really if you look. So I'm gonna put that in with my salsa. This is such a wonderful party treat, I think. It's so fresh, so tasty, and then that along with your tortilla chips, I mean, you're really gonna shock the party. So then the recipe does call for the juice of 2 limes. Again, you guys remember we're cutting this in half, so I'm gonna just use the juice of 1 lime. Already, I did put this into the microwave, and I used our trick, which we mentioned a couple videos ago, where you microwave it for maybe like 10 seconds. Definitely stick around to keep an eye on it, you guys. So microwave it for 10 minutes to kind of release some of that juice from the membranes of the lime. And then we're gonna just roll it around like so, making sure it really released as much juice. I want to get my money's worth out of this lime here. So we're going to do that. And this is okay to do with lemons. I also do this with oranges too. If I'm going to eat an orange and I want to make sure that I'm getting all the juice that I need, I do kind of roll it around at first so I can get really juicy orange there. So now that I've done that, I cut my lime in half, like so. And I want to squeeze the juice. So squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And this is a great spot for like maybe if you have any kiddos that might be interested in getting involved in the kitchen, they can come help you squeeze limes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
This is
Sometimes I might even scrape it on the side a little bit like that. So yeah, make it work.
Yeah, this is a really great recipe to practice your knife skills. We are doing a lot of knife work with this recipe. If you do have kids that are a little bit older, they can start practicing knife skills as soon as they get a little bit older and that you feel comfortable with them being in the kitchen with a knife. But this recipe, having them stir, or as Sajua had mentioned, squeezing the limes are a really great options to get your kids involved in this recipe for your younger kiddos.
Yes, I'm gonna work in these limes, you guys. Now, I know when you see squeezed limes like this, you're like, oh, it's donezo, we're done, throw it away. Now, call me the frugal one if you want, but I oftentimes will take something like this and throw it in my water for the day, and it will still add some flavor, even though we've used the juice in a recipe already. There's still like flavor in there, and so I will add this to my water and just kind of pump my water up to the next level. So that's, you know, just one tip if you want to make sure you're getting the most out of something like this and you're just using it for a recipe. You just need the juice. You can add that to your water. So we've got our limes in there. Oh, you know, actually I'm looking here at my mango and I realized I left 2 chunks. So why don't I go ahead and cut the meat off of these guys and add that in there? I realized I left that. I don't want to waste. Otherwise I probably would have just eaten it later on. I love mangoes. They're one of my favorite fruits. So.
Yes. I always have such difficulty cutting them, so
Oh.
that big seed in the middle of the mango makes it a little difficult, but you can kind of use it as a guide. But you know, having your mangoes prepped ahead of time, I'm sure. Do you prep your mangoes ahead of time, Sajua, or do you just cut them as you eat them?
I do cut them as I eat them. You guys, I've been eating mangoes since I was a little girl, and it's one of my favorite treats growing up. My dad introduced them to me when I was little. So I've always been a fan of actually cutting it at the same time. And then I might even, you know, chew a little bit on the seed and get a little bit of that extra mango off of the edges and stuff.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. And if your kids can try it, they're really going to enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So let me just grab my spoon.
Absolutely. And this recipe is really awesome because we are getting a couple of servings of fruit in there in this beautiful snack. We also have some vegetables. So, you know, we're covering a little bit of my plate here with our fruits, vegetables, and then with our homemade tortilla chips, we're also getting a grain. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, and so that's pretty much what our mango salsa is going to look like right here. Now, if you wanted, you could add something like bell pepper in here would be nice. I did mention green onions already could work. And before I switch to the chips, I did want to show you. I made this recipe the other night with my family, and this is one that has had some time to soak. Not soak, but kind of sit for the overnight. And this is actually made with peaches. Yeah. So that's where we're getting the red from if you look in there. And oh my goodness, the next day that flavor really came through. We actually had this alongside some fish last night. So this recipe doesn't just have to go with your tortilla chips. You could add it on the side of something like a fish or a chicken and really amp up that meal to the next level. So I just wanted to show you guys what the peach is looking like. And then we have our mango. And then once this sits overnight, I'm sure it'll go ahead and marinate a little bit better. Absolutely. So that's kind of what that looks like, you guys. Now let's move ahead, and I'm going to show you how to make the homemade tortilla chips. You're really going to impress your friends with this one.
This recipe, I think, would also be amazing with our fish tacos. We made fish tacos a few weeks ago. Putting a mango salsa on top of fish tacos, I think, would be absolutely amazing.
So I'm just doing a little TV swap out, you guys. You know how we like to do on Cooking Connected. And you'll see I have my baking tray here. Now, with the homemade tortilla chips, you're just going to take some corn tortillas, like so. And you just need a couple of them. You want to make sure to preheat your oven to 375. I like to take my tortillas and cut them in fourths. I think that makes the perfect size for like a chip, and a chip that's going to be able to really scoop up all those nice chunks from our mango salsa. So I just cut that in fourths. And now that I've got that, I'll set these to the side. Very simple. It's a very easy recipe. There's hardly any thought to it. I've got some regular old vegetable oil, and I'm going to use that to lightly coat my tray, my baking tray. And here's another opportunity for the kiddos to get involved. Use your fingers, because we've already washed our hands and we've got ourselves ready, and we're going to spread our oil around with our fingers. Now, if you wanted to, you could use a spray. That works fine too. That might be a little bit more convenient for you. It depends on what you and your family, what works best for you and your family. For us, though, I didn't have any spray, so I'm going to go ahead and get dirty and oil up my pan like so. I'm going to just move these guys to the side. Just make sure I get the oil everywhere. Oops. And what I like about these tortilla chips is you get a chance to kind of control the sodium in your recipe. So normally tortilla chips can be quite on the salty side. And with this, you get to choose the seasoning. And if you wanted to mix it up, you could add a little lime, peppers, cayenne, anything you want, paprika, whatever would sound good to you, and really customize the chip for you and your taste buds. So that's something that I like. You are going to probably want to do a couple batches of these because they go quick. They're so tasty.
You can add a little bit of, I've added cumin to the top of these, and a little bit of cayenne is really nice. And if you want, do you coat both sides, Sajwa, when you're making your chips, or do you just coat the one side of your chips with oil?
I actually coat just coat the pan, and then what I do is midway, these cook for about 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So about 5 minutes through, I flip them over so I can get a nice even cook, and with that flip, the other side gets oiled too.
Sure.
And you get a really nice even cook with that. It works really well for that. But if you wanted to, you could coat the top side too, if you weren't interested in coming in and flipping again and da-da-da. So that's another step that you could do. Mm-hmm. So that's what these look like. I'm just going to pop these in the oven. And of course, I wouldn't leave you guys hanging without an example. There we go. So I have my tortilla chips that have been cooked for 10 minutes. And if you want on the top, you can just sprinkle a little bit of salt on top. And then they're nice and crisp. They're really good like so. I've got my salsa, and we're ready for our party.
Absolutely. That is such a beautiful recipe. Those tortilla chips, they are awesome to make. So I hope you guys give those a try. Well, thank you so much, Sajwa, for showing us that.
Of course.
Such a beautiful recipe. Hopefully you guys try it in multiple different fruits, the pineapple, peach, or mango. So we do just have a few minutes here, and it's kind of a quick recipe, so I did want to just quickly go over what we were going to talk about for nutrition today. So I did want to talk about how we can reduce our sugars, making healthier choices by reducing sugar. And this is a really great recipe to think about when you're reducing your sugar. For instance, when you're thinking about going to a party, bringing a beautiful mango salsa instead that has a lot of flavor, you're getting a fruit, and you're not bringing a dessert. Instead of eating desserts like cookies and candy and cakes, you can have a fruit-based dessert like this. So you kind of are getting that sweetness that you want, and then also a little bit of salty with your chips that you homemade as well. Some other things to watch out for would be sugary cereals and flavored yogurts. So there's a lot of sugary flavored yogurts on the shelf right now. What you can actually do is you can add fruit to an unsweetened plain yogurt. There's a little bit of a bonus there. If you get the big plain yogurt, you can use that as a sour cream substitute as well. So not only would you have a flavored yogurt, but you have a sour cream substitute to use as well. Also thinking about our drinks, reducing our sugar in what we're drinking as well. For instance, like sodas or some coffees like lattes and things like that have a lot of sugar in them that we add to our diet. So like Sajwa had mentioned, adding fruits to our water is a really great way to still get a sweet drink and still kind of get that sweetness that we're craving. So there's a lot of ways that we can really reduce our sugar, and this recipe is a really great example of how to do that. So again, thank you so much, Sajwa, for showing us this beautiful recipe.
Of
We hope
course.
that you guys make this recipe at home. So if you do make this recipe at home, please show us some pictures. We'd love to see them. Let us know which kind you made, if you liked it, etc. We love to see what you guys are doing with these recipes. Also, please don't forget to take our survey. It will be in the description box below, so please check that out. Again, here's our program code. So E097391 for today's mango salsa and homemade tortilla chips. Finally, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and join us again next week for another episode of Cooking Connected. We are on every Thursday at 2 p.m. And of course, every Friday on our Facebook page, we are doing polls for what we will be making the next week. So if you want to let us know what you want to make, please check out our Facebook page. So, all right, everyone. Well, that wraps this episode up of Cooking Connected. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you again next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.